A Nascent Kaleidoscope. Chapter 81. Gramps and I walked back into his home, a small smile on my face and a frown on his. "Why are you both covered in blue paint?" Rin stopped, staring at us. "No reason," Zelretch smoothly replied. "He's a sore loser," I corrected. "How you doing, Rin?" I asked, seeing Artoria also join her. Zelretch disappeared when I wasn't looking, probably off to fulfill his side of the wager. "I'm good," she shrugged. "You want a status update or something? I thought you were in another world." "I wasn't sure, but I'm not really here to pressure you or anything, just wanted some notes looked at by the old man." I tried to wipe away the blue dye on my face as best as possible. "Oh, by the way, pick these up over there." I tossed a couple of the magical phones on the nearby table. And before I forgot, I turned to Artoria. "Izzy wants to hang out sometime if you're interested." The dye was easy enough to remove with some magical applications. "I would like that very much." Artoria beamed. Rin held one of the phones in her hand, eyeing them. "I'll take these apart laters." She set them back down. Honestly, she looked rather out of it. A look rather familiar to most mages. You can only shut yourself in your workshop for so long. "Who's Izzy? You didn't tell her?" I asked Artoria. I did not wish to reveal any private matters. Artoria replied, "You are ridiculously sweet, but it's fine to tell Rin stuff like that." I couldn't help but wrap my arms around her. The sound she made was so cute, and she returned my hug. "I still owe you another date. Anything in particular you want to do?" "I will think on it." She looked rather thoughtful at the notion. I was the one who basically lead the other dates, so I figured it would be good to allow her to take the lead here. "Bleh, flirt somewhere else." Rin made a gagging noise. "Anyways, who's Izzy?" "Izanami no Makoto, Japan's goddess of death and creation. I happened to befriend her in my birth world. Artoria helped me with a matter involving her, and they apparently became friends as well." I feel like I'm missing a lot of context. "Actually, that is very much what happened," Artoria commented. "Izanami is nice. We spent a while chatting." "I'm not even surprised. This is pretty much the norm around here." Rin sighed. "You'll like her." I smiled. She's a lot different than how her legends portrays. Honestly, she's a bit of a shut-in. Spends a lot of time on the internet. Honestly, the image is still amusing. "Oh, TLDR, they have supernatural internet over there. Learned that little tidbit the hard way. Well, if I ever get to the point where I can come and go across world lines, I would like to visit." She shrugged. "Do you have more info on that one world we were supposed to go to soon?" "Oh, Skyrim." Well, Skyrim was the name of the province, but I didn't really intend to venture beyond those borders for the moment. "Yeah, that place." She sent me a tired dismissal. "I think I should be finished with my kaleidophone soon. And are we really calling it that? You gonna tell the old man he can't?" I eyed her. "Point." She agreed. "You okay?" She seemed so out of it. More than just being tired. Tired. She yawned. "And hungry. I haven't slept in 60 hours and eaten in almost as long." I had to drag her away from her work. Artoria sighed. Perfect timing then. Zelretch popped in right at that moment, carrying a few bags that gave off a tantalizing smell. "Bullshit, you did that on purpose." I rolled my eyes, though I would have done the same thing. "What did you get?" "Authentic Cajun from New Orleans, Louisiana." He set the stuff on the table. "Oh, good choice." I nodded, putting my hat on Artoria's head, much to her amusement. "Hope you brought some bibs." "Ha," he smiled, taking them out with little cartoonish pictures of lobsters on them. "If you aren't covered in a mess, you aren't eating it right." I just smiled as Artoria didn't take my hat off, and Happy started digging in. "So what are you doing after this?" Zelretch looked at me and asked. "Figured I'd go swing by and see Sasaki Kojiro, promise him I would bring some sake." I took a bite of food. Maybe check in on Medea too, see how it's going. After, though, probably head back over to my birth world. Got some stuff going on. "How is Assassin?" "I have not spoken to him in." Artoria scrunched her brow. "Well, over a year. He's doing well, I suppose. But he seems dreadfully bored. Should I spar with him again?" "Actually, Rin, when you finally finish your project, I was thinking about maybe linking it up to the supernatural internet back in my birth world, and perhaps giving a few of them away to friends. I think Sasaki would appreciate that quite a bit. Whatever, just pay me. She shrugged, clearly not caring. Fair enough. I turned back to Artoria. Want to come with me? She tilted her head, glancing over at Rin. Go, go. Rin made a shooing motion. Go have fun with your boyfriend. I'm gonna nap after I eat. I think hearing Rin calling her that, Artoria started to blush. I would like to join if it is okay. Of course. I reached over, squeezing her hand briefly. Though, will you be okay seeing me, Dia? Artoria pursed her lips. We have an understanding. Ominous. The air here is quite nice. Artoria commented as we stepped out of a portal at the base of the Ryudu Temple in Fuyuki. I had missed it. Yeah, this land is saturated with magical energy due to the lay comparatively to most of the world, that is. I nodded, and the air here was much cleaner than in London. Ah, that reminds me, has Rin been practicing with her noble phantasm? The corners of Artoria's lips curled up. I have managed to drag her out a few times to practice. She is a fast learner. She looked pleased with herself. Ah, I also had a question I had been meaning to ask. She ran her fingers along the brim of my hat she was still wearing. Where is Sir Wiggles? I held back a laugh at her saying the name with a serious face. Izzy and him are having a sleepover. I smiled. It seemed like she needed some company. I see. She nodded with what I heard of a lucky under her breath. Seems like I chose well for my familiar. Oh, some familiar faces. I heard certain voice call out, walking down the steps. Hello, Sasaki. Artoria greeted him like an old friend. Saber, a please as always. He nodded towards her. And if it isn't Wilhelm? He looked at me intently. You've changed quite a bit. Well, I do preen under praise. I have. No point in hiding it. Curious. You've only been gone weeks at this point yet? His hands almost made an unconscious grasping motion, practically looking for his sword. Time is relative. My fingers twitched similarly. Oh ho, an interesting answer. Well, why don't we test that out then? I paused, sighing. Sorry, can't fight this time. I held my hands up in surrender. His face relaxed, almost looking sad. Unfortunate. Hey, I did bring some good stuff though. I replied, taking out a few jars of sake. You are the best kind of visitor. All battle intent seemed to dissipate as he almost skipped towards me and happily took the jars. Next time, we will cross blades. He replied, and you are welcome to join as well, Saber. I thank you for the invitation. Saber looked amused at the prospect. My, what a cute couple you two make. He laughed. Artoria looked bashful at his statement. How did you know? The way you seem so relaxed around him, I suppose. He replied, you look happier than the last time I saw you as well. No use in hiding it. My hand reached over, interlocking fingers with Artoria's. She didn't reel back nor hesitate, but her face was clearly red. Ha ha! Sasaki laughed. Little lion, this you is a much better sight than the one all those years ago. Ah, embarrassed Artoria, this is my favorite. Is me Dia in? The witch is up there. He waved me off. She probably knows you're here already. Thanks, samurai. He sat down lazily, uncorking a bottle of sake. Bring me some more next time. No problem. Enjoy. I said my goodbyes as Artoria and I began to scale the steps. Honestly, I would make a comment about them be never-ending, had we not entered an illusion and them literally never-ending. Medea? I asked. Artoria was clearly aware of what was going on, and but seemed nervous. Sasbr. You came back to me. A voice echoed out. Castor, we had an agreement. Artoria said evenly. Boo, how about we? Castor. Fine, she said, and the surroundings returned to normal, Castor standing at the top of the stairs. Hey there, boy. Heard you managed to snag Saber as your woman. Good job. She gave me a thumbs up. Huh, was expecting her to not be on board with that. More of the, how dare you corrupt my Saber kind of thing. But I guess that's a Greek for you. Thanks. I replied happily with Artoria making embarrassed Artoria noises. You come here to get wedding dress designs? I got tons, perfectly in Saber size. She sounded so giddy. Castor. Artoria sighed. Saber, just a few dresses. Actually, I wouldn't mind seeing some of your designs. I commented. I doubt all she had were wedding dresses, or that would be a bit weird. But I was honestly interested in what she's made. The fact that she indeed sells some of her designs speaks of her ability. Hee. Medea muttered to herself. I also got some materials I want you to take a look at, see if you can do anything with them, because my wardrobe is looking rather non-existent right now. You're in luck. I was bored the past couple weeks and designed a line of men's clothing. I wouldn't mind a second opinion. She nodded to herself. As much as I love my hubby, he's a bit dense when it comes to fashion. Well, I had some time to spare before I went back to my birth world. Chapter 82. Interlude 3. Arthur Pendragon, Hero Faction, POV. I'm glad everyone could make time to show up, Chow Chow commented, sweeping his gaze around the room. His smile grated on my nerves these days. Before we begin, any new business anyone wants to bring up? There were a few grunts and head shakes. Nobody seemed to want to say anything. Frankly, nobody seemed to want to even be here. I certainly did not. Okay, moving on. Chow Chow paced a bit, a clipboard held in his hand. Hercules, how did your recruitment go? He was a weakling. The big oaf of a man leaned back and spat the words out, not even caring at the looks he was receiving. So we can take it you failed. George spoke up. He had been rather quiet recently, but I hadn't cared enough to ask. What's that, you brat? Hercules sneered. Didn't you fuck up your little recruitment? George pushed his glasses up. My one to your dozens. How many of them even survive your encounters? Not my fault none of them can match me. He already looked bored with the whole argument. If they die so easily, then they weren't good enough to join us. Yes, quite the logic. A faction that goes out recruiting under the guise of protecting humanity, and my fellow members seem content to kill potential recruits, other humans on a whim. How many of them simply didn't want a life of conflict? Or how many were too early into their careers, their marital paths, and weren't on the level of someone who inherited the spirit of Hercules many years ago? It's not like everyone was given such a high starting point that this big idiot did. The only thing larger than his idiocy is his ego, which never ceases to blind him to the obvious facts. It's pretty much expected for Hercules to fail, but how did you not even manage to capture the half-devil, George? The inheritor of Jeanne d'Arc's will lightly spoke. Her vacant expression could be mistaken for aloofness, but if I unfortunately knew her well enough to know she hit several stereotypes of those with blonde hair. What was that, you bitch? Hercules stood up, baring his fist. Hercules! Chow Chow's voice rang out. The big oaf just grumbled and sat back down. They even knew Hercules' reputation, yet they still send him out on these kinds of missions. I suppose he sometimes gives results, but more often than not, he makes things infinity worse. I'm also curious, George. Chow Chow stopped his pacing, glancing over at George. I only saw the end of the meeting when you called for me. Well, I suppose I'm slightly interested now. Was it not just a recruitment? That's all I heard about at the last meeting. Not that I cared much, but I try to keep abreast of everyone's activities. Then again, it wasn't the first time Chow Chow decided not to inform me of his plans. I guess I've messed up one too many missions in the past. Well, I was interested in the swords he used. I didn't recognize them at all, and no one else I spoke to either. I did enjoy the discussions taking place online. I even met someone who enjoyed talking about swords and weapons as much as I did. What was his name? Hooded One? He was very knowledgeable on the subject. I quite enjoyed the talks we had. A hobby if nothing else. He somehow stopped my dimension lost. I don't know how, but when I tried to trap him in dimension I created, he took control and shattered it. George looked uncharacteristically shaken. Some kind of sacred gear that interferes with dimension lost? Jean asked. Possibly, but I consider the notion unlikely. Chow Chow shook his head. If he had a sacred gear, he would have been kept under tighter lock and key by the devils. Well, that isn't exactly wrong. Though it isn't that right either. While I am no fan of Devil Society, it isn't quite so easy to brush them all the same color. The Grimoires generally treat theirs well, and I have no doubt he would have been checked for a sacred gear since he was half human. So the only explanation, magic. I spoke plainly. Several eyes turned to me, but I just ignored them with a tired expression. Oofed! Hercule rolled his eyes. Magicians are all squishy. You should have just sent me. He was needed alive as a hostage. I pointed out. Chow Chow shot me a look. Yes, you arrogant twat. I can put two and two together. Did he really think I wouldn't understand that he wanted to get a hold of Lucifer's son to use as leverage? It was distasteful, but I could not deny the opportunity it would bring from a resources standpoint. Was there an easier target to get to the devil's leader? Well, there are plans in the works to kidnap his other son, mostly by those old Satan faction louts, but I didn't want to be involved with their nonsense. What's the terms used? Hate boner. Yeah, they truly have a hate boner for the new devil leaders. It's good we have talented magicians among our numbers. Chow Chow narrowed his eyes. I'm sure Lu Fei would be a big help on this matter. I didn't react. I didn't draw Caliban and cleave him in twain. The only thing stopping me at this moment was the debt I owed him. He managed to get Lu Fei out from under the Pendragon family. For that reason I have continued to along with this nonsense. My honor demanded I repay him, but he also knows that if he tried to use Lu Fei as leverage over me, I would not hesitate to cut him down. And he knowingly straddles the lines I've drawn in the sand. She's busy. How unfortunate. Chow Chow replied instantaneously, knowing I would dismiss his request. He knew I would not allow it to happen. He was simply reminding me of my place. Fortunately, I've kept Lu Fei mostly in the dark with regards to what we do. She merely thinks we go around protecting humanity, though that brings about its own set of problems. Regardless, what an arrogant arse. Are we going to make another move on the half-devil? Jean asked, seemingly barely paying attention to the matters at hand. No, we have other things to worry about for the moment. Chow Chow finally turned away from me and back to George. If you would. George just nodded, holding his hand out and allowing Dimension Lost to dispense someone onto the floor. What? Where am I? He shakily stood up and looked around. Hey, aren't you? He was cut off as a hand gripped his throat. We had an agreement, vermin. Chow Chow said plainly, choking the Yukai. We would help you with your ritual. You resurrect Tamamonome, and she usurps Yasaka's positions over the ley lines, and then we'd be allowed to use them for our own purpose. Ah, that's why Conla was still in the infirmary, and Perseus is still unconscious. This isn't the first time Chow Chow moved on Kyoto. Why does he want access to the ley lines so much? There are other ley lines in the world, but admittedly they are more or less better defended. And if you compare their quality, many of them can't be compared to Kyoto. The only real reason that the Yukai remains in control of theirs is because of the Shinto pantheon dissuading the heavy hitters. You didn't even keep that little fox. Chow Chow shook his head. I held back a sigh. What was with them in kidnapping children? It wasn't our fault. He blurted out as Chow Chow let up his grip, allowing him to fall to the floor. Someone interfered, and she fell into Yomi. All I know is that someone brought her back to Yasaka. Who? I don't. He had red hair and didn't look like a Yukai. Was it in a ponytail, and was he dressed up? Yes. Chow Chow sighed. It seems he held a grudge. Was it Luckfear's bastard? George frowned. The tone almost made me smile. It seemed that whatever this half-devil did, it really left a mark on him. Sounds like it. Chow Chow looked annoyed. How can you be sure? I asked innocently. He mouthed the words, Cow's Brigade, to me after blocking my strike. That made me pause. He blocked your strike. Chow Chow wasn't exactly the most martially talented, but his spear was the very definition of overpowered. Especially against the likes of a devil, even a half, it should have been a much different outcome. Apparently he also knew of our allies as well. Curious. Oh, sounds like he might be able to actually fight back. Hercules punched his palm. Wasn't he supposed to only be like a couple weeks into the supernatural world? Jean sat up straighter. He's getting pretty popular online. She took out her phone. There are rumors that his mom is a goddess. No, he possessed no divinity. Chow Chow shook his head. Can the Spear of Destiny allow its wielders to sense such a thing? Regardless, this guy is turning out to be rather interesting. Knowledgeable in magics unrecognizable and powerful that are known. A good handle on swordsmanship if those few clips were anything to go by. I would very much like to cross blades with him. So what's the plan then? George asked. We still move forward, Chow Chow declared. We just have to cut out the middlemen. His gaze drifted down to the Yukai who didn't dare stand up. With a swift motion, his holy spear pierced through the Yukai and retracted as if nothing happened. Those cult members can still be useful. He pondered. I guess we can do the same thing we did before. Grab the girl again, force her mom to cooperate. He finally shrugged. As much as I didn't want to admit it, that was probably the best choice. Not one I would ever take, but it was the path of least resistance. To assault Yasaka in her home would be foolhardy, even if her daughter would be under much tighter guard. Her mother can't be near her forever. If Chow Chow mobilized all of us, it wouldn't be very hard to capture her without Yasaka catching wind in time. And there was no way she would fight us with her daughter behind-held. Once again, I feel my honor getting stained. Can I even call myself a knight after all of this? I can't help but think of my sister as times like these, and my resolve reaffirms itself. If I must walk into the depths of hell to preserve her smile, then hell I shall go. Chapter 83. Connect the magical converter to the tachyon accelerator. I attached 2 cables together, applying conceptual terraforming. I pulled on my magic and my house began to shake. Activating flux capacitor. Okay, you're just saying random words to make your magic seem more spectacular. Could be. I laughed as Izzy sat on the nearby couch, Sir Wiggles in her lap. I have seen Back to the Future. She deadpanned. And I find it highly unlikely this building will be time-traveling. Wanna bet money on that? I turned and smirked at her. No, I do not. She hardened her expression. Please don't send us back in time. Even gods whose domain revolves in temporal manipulation don't mess with it unless necessary. Too late. I activated my equipment, and the house exploded in a multitude of colors. What did you do? Nothing. Wilhelm, she said sternly, almost like my mother used to. Look out the window, I told her. She looked at me in exasperation, standing up and pulling the curtains apart. Why can I see the Empire State Building in the distance? Praise me, I am a genius. Did you teleport the house to New York? Nope. She tilted her head. Why do I still feel like we're in Japan? I helped create the very land and I can still feel that connection. Because we are. I smirked. She paused, giving the place a once-over again, except this time her eyes were glowing. Honestly, it was very pretty, the way the power pulsed off her red pupils. We exist in both places simultaneously. Nailed it, I said smugly. You. She sighed. I have no words. She sat back down next to me. I guess we technically are time-traveling. The feeling of a job well done. I had been pretty much working on this the entire time I've been in this world. Even this past week after I came back, I pretty much entirely focused on this project, all leading up to this moment. I wanted Artoria to also be here, but she was with Rin at the moment running an errand for Zelretch. I accepted a long time ago that she would have responsibilities that kept both of us away. Hell, I do too. Doesn't make me miss her any less. Well, at least I got to spend that time with her that I did. And it was nice to see Castor and Assassin again, not to mention I got some new clothes in the making. Also managed to convince Artoria she would look good in one of the dresses Castor made. On that same note, I really miss Meridia right now as well. Not to mention, she who shall not be named. I try to keep myself occupied, but the feelings just burst out sometimes. As easy as it would be to pop back to Skyrim. I wanted to wait for Rin and Artoria, and I had a few more things to take care of. I actually wanted to stay there for a bit before disappearing again, so I was prepping for that eventuality. Regardless, it was nice having Izzy around though. I enjoyed her friendship. Praise me. I refuse. Mean. I pursed my lips. My intention was to link my house in several locations, so I can be a literal step away from all my friends and family. I smiled at her. I see. Does that mean Artoria would also be able to come and go? Hopefully. I nodded. Izzy hummed, a small smile on her face. I couldn't blame her. There were a total of like 3 people who actively spoke to her. And her son barely counts, as harsh as that is to say. I am, of course, her friend, and take every opportunity to spend time with her, but she seemingly hit it off with Artoria after their little debacle, and I suppose she wanted to see her more. And there is the aspect of more girlfriends. There are some things I just can't give her in a friendship, and I still haven't told her the truth yet. I trust her a lot, perhaps more than I should, but that's still a difficult topic to approach. Well, since we're here, want to get some pizza? Why do I have the feeling you did this, just for easier access to their food? Because you are a smart woman. I nodded sagely. Is that a no, then? Will, we're in New York. That question is like asking me if water is wet. She rolled her eyes. Of course I wish to partake. She stood up but hesitated again. Will there be an issue if I walk around? Here, this isn't my home. This is technically heaven's territory, but... Fuck him. What? Fuck them. I shrugged. Who cares? If they want to make an issue of it, I'll beat them up. Izzy shook her head with a small smile. You are going to make many enemies if you keep going around with that attitude. Today is a good day. I finished off the slice of pizza on my plate. Yes. Izzy smiled lightly. It has been enjoyable. I heard a ding and took out my phone. I read the message and furrowed my brow. It seems Kunu finally woke up. You are in contact with them? Yusaka asked for my number before I left last time. She sends me the occasional message, or rather picture, saved in a very special place. Apparently Kunu is asking about us. Yusaka invited me over, asked if I would extend it to you as well. Is that so? Izzy looked deep in thought. You don't have to. I didn't want to pressure her into anything. But she genuinely wished to thank you, and I don't think Kunu would have any negative perceptions. I will think on it, Izanami said hesitantly. That's all I ask. I nodded, setting my phone down and taking a look out the window as something caught my eye. Hey Izzy, we're still in New York, right? She just blinked at me in confusion. Yes. Then why is there a Gundam fighting Godzilla in the distance? I pointed out the window. What are you talking? She stopped, mouth ajar as she stared at the same scene as me. A giant robot just landed a haymaker on a giant lizard monster. Are you sure we're still not in Japan? I find that mildly racist. Izanami huffed. Just because there is a giant robot and a Godzilla look alike, she let out a breath. Okay, I can't finish that sentence. I have so many questions right now. If I recall, the head of the government's supernatural division has a sacred gear dealing with technology or something. I recalled some tidbits, admiring the fight. Best sacred gear ever. Hey, make me a giant robot and I'll take my words back. Fuck you. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. She scoffed. And yet I find it entirely believable. What a silly place this is. It's so fucking cool, though. Agreed. I sometimes forget that the goddess Izanami is kind of a neat. She gets practically all my references and knows pop culture like the back of her hand. Well, I suppose it isn't too surprisingly considering the internet was one of her only avenues to interact with the world. Hey! I looked towards her. What? Can you use your goddess powers to make a giant robot? Why would you assume that? I mean, you literally created a country. I crossed my arms. I think it's a fair question, considering. Those are two entirely different things. And besides, I also had help and a divine spear and was lent power from the Kodo Amatsukami, primordial deities. So you're saying your goddess powers are lame. My goddess powers are not lame. Note to self, find a world with giant robots walking around for scientific purposes, of course. They aren't. Sure. She huffed, crossing her arms, looking between me and the fight happening in the distance. We could even feel shockwaves from this far away. How are they even going to hide this nonsense? Oh, the Americans are very good at wiping short-term memories. All major cities have large-scale spells ready to go for such situations. Honestly, this isn't the first stupid thing that's happened in recent years that threatened to blow the masquerade. And other places lend a hand. They have an actual interest in keeping the secret going. So even other factions help keep everything concealed. Want to go fight the giant Godzilla look-alike? Are you seriously asking me that question? She raised an eyebrow. Of course I do. Sweet Jeebus, let's go. I saw a big smile on Izzy's face. I could tell she was having fun with this whole thing, just as much as I was. Can't wait to brag about this to my Gramps. I wonder if Susanoo will be amused by this story. Izzy tilted her head, waving her hands as shadows began to crawl along the ground next to her. You think they'll let me keep the robot if I stop the monster from causing any major damage? It couldn't hurt to ask. I walked out of a very large portal, Izzy right behind me as she literally dragged two giant bone-like spikes from behind her. Where do you want yours? I'm thinking. I tapped my chin, looking around my front yard. Opposite the tree, gives the yard some nice symmetry. She nodded, helping me heave the massive spike into the ground and adjusting it in place. A souvenir we took off the thing's corpse. It wasn't that strong, all things considered. I mean, A fully grown dragon would probably beat it. It was mostly just muscle and sheer mass that made it cause a mess. My guess was some kind of magical experiment. Well, I suppose it will make an interesting conversation piece. Izzy admired it, wiping some ash off her sleeve. Her clothes were singed in some places, and perhaps slightly disheveled. My clothes didn't fare much better, perhaps even worse. Who knew that lizard could breathe fire? At least it wasn't an atomic breath, even if that would be fucking amazing. Would you like a hand as well? If it wouldn't be too much trouble. I opened up a second portal. That should be a little bit in front of your house. Wonderful. She hefted it up, and the image was very humorous as her tiny stature held up something half the size of my home and tossed it through. Don't forget to share those pictures you took. Of course, I'll also be posting them online. Well, at least people will forget about me now. I think a Godzilla look-alike attacking New York is a much more interesting story. You do realize that a good number of people saw you in most likely 2 pictures, yes? You know, I keep forgetting the internet is a thing when it's inconvenient for me. Izzy just gently pat my shoulder. I'm not blurring your face. Yeah. I waved her off. So, you want to see Yasaka tomorrow? Izzy paused. The fun smile turned more neutral. You said you will be there, correct? Yup. Okay, I do not mind attending along with you. I couldn't help but smile. Getting her to go out and have fun with me was one thing, having her interact with other people was a whole other. I wanted her to be more open, but I knew that was going to be a slow process. Tomorrow then. Tomorrow. She nodded, heading through the portal I already had open. Today has been very strange, but perhaps one of the best days I've ever had. Chapter 84. You know, Drake, I think it's almost time to leave. I strolled down the horrific paths that made up Yomi. I may have been less carefree if I did not know Izanami was watching over me. Yomi or this world? The world. I hummed, reaching down and grabbing a handful of soil. I didn't actually have a chance to inspect this place before. It was rather interesting from a research standpoint. I added some of the soil into a little baggie and put in my ring. I can see it. You did pretty much everything you set out to do here, which wasn't much. True. I finally got my little project up and running. I nodded at his words. My house was ready for further world line expansion, hopefully. You never know what could go wrong down the line. On the surface, it seems to work. I think this whole trip did you good. Yeah, it was a nice vacation, even if I had to meddle in some annoying stuff. I felt extremely refreshed. It was a nice load-off, especially from seeing Mom again. And I have a new friend that I've grown close to these past few weeks. Being able to just relax and deal with my own shit for a while, it was very therapeutic. But I really need to get back to work. I'm not nearly as strong as I want to be, and I have yet to push my current strength to its limits. Hell, I haven't had a proper fight in what feels like forever. I'll need to check back in with everyone back home, see where they are with that. But my gut is telling me they won't be done anytime soon. Perhaps I should look over that list of worlds the old man gave me. I'm sure there's something there I can find useful. Izzy appeared in front of me as her house came into view. You know, you didn't have to come here, Nope. I cut her off. I really don't mind coming here to visit you, Izzy. This silly goddess, but I'll keep reinforcing it every time I see her. Her default mindset to think the worst of herself. She let out a small huff. Do what you want. I couldn't help but smile. She looked slightly different, perhaps a little dressed up without appearing to have dressed up, if that makes sense. Equal parts excited for the meeting with a dash of uncertainty mixed in. Ready to go. I offered my hand as I created a new portal. As I'll ever be. She took it as I guided her on through. Your method of traversing space is still as vexing as the first time I saw it, Izzy commented as we appeared outside the compound where Yasaka lived. Oh, are you curious? Mildly, she said dryly, but I will not pry if you don't wish to share. I paused at her words. It's something difficult to talk about. I said quietly, does it involve Artoria? Izzy asked, though I knew she wanted to say other things. Somewhat, I confirmed. I see. Did she notice the strangeness surrounding us? No, she would have to be a fool to not notice something so obvious. The fact that she hasn't brought it up beyond this. The gates of the fortified mansion opened up. Yasaka walked out, garbed in a more regal outfit flanked by several guards who all looked wary, some eyes glancing towards Izzy. But what grabbed my attention was the little fox hiding behind Yusaka. She stared at both me and Izzy curiously, not a hint of fear in her eyes. "Lady Izanami, we thank you for your gracious visit." Yusaka bowed lightly. "If you would please follow me inside, I have prepared accommodations." "Very well," Izzy said evenly. It seems I was regulated as the side character here. Not that I minded that much. If I was merely here for Izzy's moral support, that would have been fine as well. The place seemed a bit more fixed up compared to last time. No bodies littering the floor, no blood splashed across the building, and no more huge craters from battle. Yusaka led us to a different part of the building, not really her meeting area, but a more personal space. The guard didn't even argue when she dismissed them. Honestly, it looked like they would rather be any other place than there. And if I noticed, then Izzy most definitely did, even if she didn't say or do anything. Izanami POV. "Thank you for coming, Lady Izanami," Yusaka said once again. "It was no trouble," I said calmly. Though I would never had come had Wilhelm not convinced me. Does he think I can't see through his intentions? I suppose it is endearing in its own way, to have someone fuss over my well-being. "You saved my daughter's life," Yusaka replied. "I am forever gratefully for your intervention. It was merely a whim." Her expression didn't change. "Regardless, if it were not for you, I would be without my daughter." And no other deities answered my requests. Oh, did my daughter ignore her Miko? I couldn't help but frown. I would have to chastise her the next time we met, if we ever meet again. "If there is anything you require, I am at your service." Yusaka dipped her head down again. "There isn't anything I need, but I had a curious thought. Did you offer the same reward to Wilhelm?" Yusaka blinked for a moment, a sly smile forming on her face. "The only thing of worth I had to offer him was myself. Alas, he turned this old woman down." She feigned heartbreak, but I felt my own lips curl up. Oh, Artoria was correct then. He certainly does attract women easily. Though how much of that is sincere, I wonder. I had the strange, albeit small, twinge of possessiveness emerge. I just shook my head and squashed such thoughts. Regardless, I held back a laugh at the look on Will's face and continued. "Perhaps he is just embarrassed." I held my expression even, but the look on his face just made it all the harder. "Well, now that you mention it." Yusaka looked thoughtful. "It's understandable." I nodded. "He has never experienced the touch of a woman. He probably did not know how to react to your forwardness." "I see. I guess I will have to be more persuasive in the future then." Wilhelm even looked a little red. How cute. "Call my goddess powers lame, will you?" "Humph. Indeed, you will have to work harder. He already has a harem." Era, she cooed. "At that age, and he already has multiple women? I really do have my work cut out for me." Yusaka looked over to her daughter, who seemed slightly embarrassed by the conversation. "Sweetie, why don't you take Daddy and show him around while me and Lady Izanami have some girl talk?" "Mom!" The little kitsune squeaked out. Her cheeks flushed red. "You know what? I would love to see the place." Wilhelm stood up, eager to escape this conversation. Fine." The little kitsune's expression betrayed her tone. She looked rather excited to spend time with Wilhelm. How adorable. We both watched for a moment as they left the room. "Did you wish a moment to ask for advice on how to better seduce him?" I eyed the Yukai leader. She let out a laugh. "Oh my, no. Just because I enjoy showing off a bit. I'm not that easy." She waved her hand flippantly. "And he's a bit fun to tease, but I'm not going to literally throw myself at him." "I hope you don't plan on leading him on then," I calmly stated. Yusaka paused for a moment, giving me another look. "I never said I was against the idea." She smirked. If he had actually reciprocated the other day, I would have probably shown him my personal quarters. I was extremely grateful for the safe return of my daughter. "Well, I don't think he would be against it either," I replied. Heavens no, I caught him taking glances at my rear every now and then. "Oh ho, he is a young man after all." Yusaka laughed. "He is handsome as well, and my daughter is quite taken with him." She hummed to herself. I could certainly do worse, and the most important thing would be my daughter's approval. Her eyes softened at the mention of her daughter. If she latches on any more, I'll probably be seeing a lot of him regardless. Who knows what will happen in the future? "I'm surprised you do not already have a lover. Your beauty is not unknown even to the divine realm." Or what I have read online. Many stories regarding her. Yasaka seemed mild surprised. I have tried once or twice since Kunu's father passed, but they never ended well. Either Kunu disliked them, or they were seeking some kind of political gain from me. She had a melancholic smile on her face. Will, though, he didn't even react when I buried his face between my breasts. She huffed. That hurt my pride a little. How forward? I couldn't help but comment. Her breasts were quite magnificent if I were to be honest. Not that I was envious. I do think my bosom was quite ample as well. Just not to that level. Does he prefer women with larger breasts? I do not think it had anything to do with your appeal. I think he was more taken back by your daughter at the time. He appeared rather concerned and meticulous when caring for her. You say something like that, and any hesitance I have will start to crumble. Yasaka had a smile on her face. Are you sure you want me stealing him away from you? I blinked in confusion. Pardon? Do you think we are in a relationship? She tilted her head. Are you not? You both appeared rather close. I just assumed. Me and Will. No. I said quietly. We are merely friends. I shook my head, dismissing some fanciful thoughts. You did not wish to speak of these matters when you sought my audience. Her expression changed from playful to serious. Yes, Lady Izanami, she said with her more regal tone. I wish to properly thank you for your help. I was truthful when I said that I owe you a great debt for saving my daughter. Child, be careful with your words. Do not forget who I am. I am aware who you are, and I will not take back what I have said. You have my eternal gratitude. My patron refused my request. Yet you helped me. Words cannot express how grateful I am. You are being very candid with your willingness to associate with me. Will it not cause problems? I had a good portion of my retinue try to overthrow me not that long ago. At this point I am willing to stomp on anyone who say any words that displease me. She said dryly, You are welcome in my lands, my home and my daughter's life. She stated, Wilhelm isn't the only one she wanted to see. You are trusting your daughter with me? I eyed her suspiciously. I'd like to think I am a good judge of character. Clearly not. I frowned, only for her to let out a small laugh. Then do I have to rethink my stance on Wilhelm as well? Her lips curled up. It's a shame. I think she called you Auntie Izanami the other day as well. I paused and felt something in my heart that was foreign. You sly fox. I was about to respond, but both our eyes turned towards a new face that entered. Lady Yasaka, I apologize for the disturbance. One of her guards appeared. But you have a visitor, and he was quite adamant about seeing you. Yasaka narrowed her eyes as a person walked right in behind the guard. Rather rude of him. I nearly scoffed until I recognized the face of the person. Okita Tsuji. Yasaka's expression steeled. Well, this certainly wasn't good. I only had the vaguest idea of Wilhelm's relationship with his father, never elaborating past estranged. Lady Yasaka, I apologize for coming abruptly, but I have a miss. Almost as if Wilhelm walked back in from another door, led by the little kitsune herself. There was a silence that permeated the place, now as Okita's eyes widened at the sight of Wilhelm. Will narrowed his eyes at the man. A tension filled the air. Hey there, kiddo. Okita broke the silence. Been looking everywhere for you. Chapter 85. Another awkward silence filled the room as everything felt rather suffocating all of a sudden. I'm sure the others could feel the tension in the air. And a lot of things I thought I didn't have to deal with came bursting back up to the surface. Feelings I thought I had gotten over, repressed, or merely outgrew. I was a whole mix of emotions right now. Yet, I was surprisingly calm. I did not lash out, get overwhelmed with rage, or simply sneer and dismiss the man in front of me. I guess I have grown up a tad in the past couple years. Who are you? I asked, with complete confusion. He blinked for a moment, a gentle smile appearing on his face. I'm Okita Tsuji, your fath. Never heard of you. I cut him off, clearly to his dissatisfaction, even if he didn't outwardly react. Well, I never said I wasn't a petty asshole sometimes. Okita Tsuji. Yasaka interrupted. What is the meaning of this? Her voice sounded very authoritative, and even Okita almost stood at attention. He seemed rather sheepish with his response. I am under orders to bring back my king's son. He replied. So you stroll into a meeting I'm having, uninvited, with the ones who rescued my daughter. She narrowed her eyes. Rescued your daughter? he repeated, slightly confused as realization dawned on him. I apologize for my rudeness. Lady Yasaka, I mean no disrespect. He bowed, perhaps lower than he should have, being an emissary of a foreign dignitary. And there is a but coming. Yasaka interrupted. He winced slightly. I am under direct orders to bring him back. Please step aside, Lady Yasaka. And what if I do not? She stood up. Her tail swayed behind her dangerously. Hers no longer had a lazy droop to them. They stood at attention, and she was ready to fight. Gone was her flirtatious fa, ade she usually keeps. Now was the destructive fox who boasted the acknowledgement as one of the strongest yokai who ever existed. It isn't just me you would have to contend with, he replied. Are you threatening me, boy? Yasaka growled out, and the room shook. The faintest manifestation of her tuki began to leak into the surroundings. I placed a hand on Kunu's shoulder as she trembled slightly. She looked up at me, and I gave her a quick wink. Only a light sigh cut away all the tension that was accumulating. All eyes turned to Izanami, who sat there quietly. Rarely have I ever found myself in a situation where I am ignored so blatantly. Her voice was quiet, yet it could grab the attention of the world if she so wished it. Okita's eyes widened. His hand gripped his sword instinctively as he took several steps back. Who are you? His voice didn't tremble, but there was the clear distinction of hesitance present. You were born upon this land that I created, and you ask who I am? Her head turned slowly. Shadows began climbing up the walls, reminiscent of hands, as all the light in the area was consumed, snuffed out, and otherwise refused to even persist within her presence. Her red eyes glowed, the shadowy tendrils wrapping around her. Yasaka was already right next to me, wrapping up Kunu protectively. I couldn't help but step in front of them, just in case. Watching the scene as the shadows were getting ready to practically strangle him, I couldn't help but feel something odd. With a sigh, I opened my mouth. Izzy, stop! Abruptly as they came, the shadows dispersed, and Izzy was sitting there as if nothing happened. Her eyes turned to me, clearly wanting an answer. This is my mess. Let me clean it up. I do not fear the strongest devil. Izzy snorted. Never said you did, but it's not your problem. If you are involved, then it is my problem. Trust me, please. She let out another snort, turning her head. Do what you want. Words can't express how happy I am that someone would stand up for me, regardless of my strength or my ability to handle the situation. But on the flip side, I didn't want to get you wrapped up in this if I didn't have to. Fear him you may not, but it would still be annoying for you, and I don't want you to have to deal with that annoyance on my behalf. Not to mention how Yasaka would be swept up in this if anything happened to Okita in such a situation. Okita didn't relax as he stared at us conversing as if nothing had happened. It was clear by the look on his face that he had no idea what was going on. You want to take me back? I refuse. I took a step forward, staring him in the eyes. Even if there are people that want to see you. He was apparently trying a different approach. Your grandmother had expressed desire in meeting you. He tried to give me a disarming smile. Not to mention your bother has been asking about you. That, to give me pause. I was not blinded by hate or anything like that. I was able to recognize that they were not involved in any nonsense around me. I knew about them, but I guess this is the first time I'm truly contemplating them. I have a brother. What an odd thought. And my grandmother apparently wished to meet me? I don't have much in the way of knowledge about them. Regardless, I only had one response for emotional blackmail. Fuck off. He let out another sigh. You're pretty skilled with your blade. Why not bet on that? He tried a third approach. Well, I can't say I didn't see this coming. Oh, you want to wager on the outcome of a duel? If I win, you come with me. He nodded. It was most certainly the path of least resistance. It may just seem like the obvious choice for a warrior like him, but doing this, he also worked around all the politics revolved around taking one of Yasaka's guests. Everyone had their own pride. Could the yokai even raise their heads to express dissatisfaction if both sides agreed on a duel? And what if I win? He paused a moment, deep in thought. What do you want? You want me to relinquish my life into your hands? Is it not appropriate for you to do the same? He took a deep breath, steadying himself. Very well. Yasaka still looked annoyed as she gazed at Okita. I have somewhere you can fight, and I will be judge. Her words leaving no room for argument. She glanced back down at Kunu, who seemed to want to stay by my side, and I held back a small laugh at Yasaka's defeated expression. Come along, Okita. It will be one last stroll through Kyoto, for regardless of the outcome, you will no longer be welcome here. Okita looked resolved. Please. He bowed again, but Yasaka didn't even spare him another glance. As they left the room, a little kitsune started grabbing onto my sleeve, giving me a worried look. He's strong, she said quietly. My heart melted at the way she looked at me. I couldn't help but pat her on the head. Don't worry, your daddy is the strongest. Her cheeks reddened, and it just made me want to tease her even more. Men and their stupid pride. Izzy muttered, standing up. In the classifications that devils use, Okita Tsuji is an ultimate class. Indeed. I was well aware of where he ranked. As far as knight pieces go, he was one of the top. And you have qualms about his strength? She asked. This is not like the nonsense we got up to the other day. She looked uncharacteristically worried. Even if you have several blessings, he has lived a long life by mortal standards. That isn't something one can overcome with ease. I gave her a reassuring smile. Don't worry, I was trained by the best. There was an arena nearby. I wasn't too surprised. Yokai in general are a bit on the aggressive side, so it made sense for there to be a place for them to fight without causing disturbances. It was rather empty, though, minus a few guards here and there keeping watch, Yasaka acting as referee, and Izzy standing to the side with Kunu right next to her. It was slightly amusing to see Izzy acting all protective of the little kitsune. There was no great declarations as I walked to my side of the arena, opposite of Okita. Yasaka being the judge was more a formality than anything, her duty as the leading of the area this was taking place. She didn't need to incite us to battle, nor give us the K to fight. I looked at my opponent. He placed a hand on his sheathed sword. I tilted my head and brought out Mirage from my ring. The glowing blade caught his immediate interest, but his eyes turned back to me. A part of me was genuinely curious how he matched up against those I've fought in the past. Where his skill level laid, even if his pure power wasn't a match for the likes of those I knew. My circuits ignited. Reinforcement filled my body. Ebony flesh was cast over me. My dragon's heart flared. My magical energy burst out in a torrent. The boosted gear stayed hidden in my soul, and my primordial runes still remained in reserve. I did not wish to reveal all my trump cards for something of this level. A lion gives birth to a lion. Okita let out a small laugh as he drew his sword. Well, I would start then. With a flick of my wrist, Mirage swung out. 10 birds! Okita reacted immediately, his body moving in a practiced manner that indicated decades upon decades of honing. Left, right, up, down. His sword collided with all my sword phantoms, dispersing them with relative ease. He moved right as the final clash ended. His speed was very impressive to the point where I had to actually focus. I planted my foot and swung using my entire body. Our swords collided at the space where nothing had been a half-second prior, filling the entire arena with a massive shockwave. His strength was also worth noting. I think he may even be physically stronger than me, which was very surprising. Though it wasn't enough to completely overpower my blow, just more of a slight advantage on his part. He pushed forward, sliding under the blow as he recalled his blade from the slash, trying to get under my guard. Flipping Mirage upside down, I caught the quick slash and followed up with a crackle of lightning that erupted from my hand, pointing right at his face. He didn't even budge as something emerged from his skin. An insect-like creature emerged, intercepting the blow and trying to bite at me. I was momentarily surprised at such a thing before I recalled what exactly was going on. I grabbed it before it could reach me, turning it into dust with my free hand. So it is true, you incubate mindless yokai in your body. Not all yokai are the sentient species that walk around Kyoto. Some are mindless monsters that rely on their baser instincts. Okita Tsuji raises them within his body and uses them for his own purposes. Sorry, kiddo, can't really go too easy on you here. He chuckled, jumping back and gaining some distance. I'll have to get serious then. All of a sudden his presence shifted. He stepped and vanished. I couldn't help but have my eyes widened as I felt the air next to me distort. I moved my head back as a blade swept right where it had been a moment prior. That was probably 10 times faster than his previous movements. And I just smiled. Another sword swept at me, his body not even visible to the naked eye anymore. It would have actually been easier if he was teleporting. I had a sense for the fluctuation of space, but no. This was pure speed, and I had to rely on my honed skill to meet him. As his blade touched my skin, space shattered and I was behind him, sword lunging for his heart. With a burst of speed, he vanished again, only to reappear a foot to the side and counterattacking. What ridiculous speed, but it wasn't something I wasn't used to. He still fell short to scat hack. His thrusts were sharp and quick. If I showed any opening, his blade tip was already digging into my skin. I was sporting small cuts all over my body now, but nothing more than flesh wounds. I gave as much as I received. He only smiled when my sword cut into his cheek and narrowly missed his neck, only to draw a thin line of blood. I shared his expression when his sword stabbed towards my eye, and I moved the least amount necessary to avoid any major damage, getting the side of my head cut in the process. To create an opening, I allowed him to nick my arm a bit deeper than I normally would have allowed, but I returned with a follow-up slash. His eyes widened at my attack, but he burst out in Tuki for a brief moment, eclipsing his normal use to move quicker than before and enhance his physical ability, but even so, he didn't anticipate the power behind my attack, and his footing got blown away before regaining himself on the other side of the arena. 100 birds. Mirage glowed as I swung. The sky filled with my sword phantoms, and Okita looked surprised for the first time in this fight, but he smiled a moment later. A numbers game? I can do that too. His body shuddered and hundreds upon hundreds of yokai burst out and overcame my numerous sword phantoms, but they continued on towards me. I couldn't count how many there were in this short moment, nor if I even had a few hours to work with. Serpents, insects, poisonous creatures of many kinds. They all composed of a swarm that bared down on me. I held out my hand and another sword answered my call. Without even moving, I held it up and called its name. Ascalon. My noble phantasm activated. The blessed blade by which force is slain. A nearly impenetrable defense swept around me, my sword moving in ways that was nearly impossible, but struck down every yokai that attempted to reach me. Body parts fell down onto the arena, blood sprinkled down almost like rain. What a monster! Okita sighed. You know, I had been raising those for years. I'm the monster? I raised an eyebrow. You aren't even using your Tennin Rishin Ryu, I snorted. Not to mention any of the stronger yokai you keep in your body. In fact, you're only using your Tuki for basic enhancements. He laughed awkwardly at my statement. Those sword techniques are meant for nothing but killin'. He scratched his cheek. Besides, I ain't the only one holding back. He didn't deny my other accusations. Guilty. I smirked. Honestly, it was hard to hate this man. Even when he was trying to take me back, he didn't really seem to like what he was doing. If anything, I would say his biggest flaw is his loyalty to his master. Call it my own pride, but I didn't want to stomp on someone whose heart wasn't even in the fight. I could easily see he did not wish to be fighting me under these circumstances. I shook my head. My other swords flashed out and hovered around me. Okita moved again, an understanding between us that the fight resumed. His swings were now infused heavily with Tuki, where he had been using it sparingly before. Every strike now was backed with a huge force. From the other side of the arena, he swung overhead, and my mirage blocked as my other swords flashed forward. He dodged them without even looking, but they changed directions and came back. He seemed a little annoyed at their persistence, as they kept aiming for his openings. I gestured with my hand, and Dawnbreaker exploded in light, swinging horizontally through the air. He was forced to raise his sword to block, and was even pushed back a few feet. Ducking his head, Whisper passed by, and he had to quickly step back before Ascalon pierced through his arm. That is surprisingly annoying. It's like I'm fighting several people at once. He grunted, knocking away Dawnbreaker for a second time. Just as he said that, his eyes glanced to me, and suddenly my swords were attacking empty air. A katana pierced towards me through the arena. A tiny opening was all he needed to escape and even counterattack. Sixth form, fluttering petals. As the words left his mouth, all that was left in his wake were a few flower petals that fell to the ground. A sword technique, not his vaunted style, but powerful nonetheless. The tip of his sword met the flat of Mirage, and I pushed with my full weight to bear the brunt of his attack. Even so, my sword was pushed back into my chest, and with a shout his Tuki expanded at the sword point, causing an explosion as he retreated. The dust settled, and I saw Okita waiting for me on the other side of the arena. My sleeves were destroyed, as was a good portion of my clothes. A few nasty burns here or there, but I was otherwise okay. He gave me a cocky little smile as he raised his sword above his head, and his body snaked down low to the ground. Third form, lightning sigil. His sword came at me from several directions, like arcs of lightning, jagged and hard to path as they tried to pierce me. My flying sword shot out, intercepting the blows with ease. Didn't think that one would work. He hopped back a few steps again, readying his blade. Annoying Izzy, shield please. I called out. What? Okita asked in confusion, as I smiled my eyes looking up to the sky and he followed my gaze. Thor's hammer. I called out as the sky collected lightning, and a massive figure appeared above us in the cloudy heavens, composed entirely of the crackling element. The massive figure brought his hammer down, and Okita tried to escape the attack. I just smiled innocently as he looked at my apparent suicidal attack. The area was enveloped in lightning, the arena almost completely gone. I even limited the wide-scaled attack to target this more narrowed area. My primordial rune shimmered and faded. My protection disappeared before the smoke cleared up. I glanced around and saw that Izzy did protect everyone, but she looked rather annoyed at my sudden request. My eyes turned back to my opponent, though. I would have been disappointed if this did end him, even if he wasn't taking this seriously. He let out a breath, some blood trailing down his lips. Can't believe I let you get one over on me like that. I feel like I'm getting really old. His entire right arm looked completely scorched, clearly using it to block the brunt of the attack, even if other parts of him were hurt. The spell probably broke through his tuki briefly. Whisper floated down from the sky where it had cast the spell, his eyes following the trail of its red glow. Crafty, he commented, not at all off-put by my hidden attack. I don't suppose you'd want to stick only to swordplay? He smiled awkwardly, rubbing his charred arm. I'll tell you what, I'll end this with a sword technique. I nodded at his request, even if it were more of a joke. He blinked and laughed. I wish I had been able to teach you all those years ago. Turning his expression into a sigh. I kept my expression neutral, but that struck a small chord with me, really making it hard to hate you right now. My swords returned to my ring, and I deactivated any magics I was preparing for. Even my physical enhancements were gone. To others, it may have looked like I had given up, but Okita looked extremely focused. I leveled Mirage next to me, taking in a deep breath. I closed my eyes before opening them slowly. The infinite paths opening up before me, showing all avenues of attack. The multicolored glow of the kaleidoscope burst out before my eyes. Swallow returns. Okita didn't react. The words only met his ears as my sword was being pulled out from his body, our backs only a few inches apart as I straightened myself up and pulled my weapon free, taking a few steps away. He fell to the ground, his sword clanking against the remains of the arena as it dropped from his hands. He was still breathing. I didn't know how to treat him. Part of me wanted to just kill him and be done with it, an act of deviance against those who wronged me, but I also couldn't bring myself to hate this man. I looked down at him again. Don't come after me anymore, I said quietly, but that didn't also mean I wasn't feeling ecstatic, like I was finally untangled with some baggage I had been carrying around with me. A weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I felt truly free. A song came to my head, one I heard when I was a child. I had strings, but now I'm free. I hummed, and as I left the arena, there are no strings on me.